Hi everybody. Oh, microphones help, don't they? Gosh, I'm having an interesting little half an hour here. Sorry for starting so late. Yeah, I went to go start the stream and my camera wasn't on, and so I had to disconnect my camera and re-add it, and then that was working, and then my stream deck stopped working. So I restarted my router because it was a port issue. And what on earth? My world is bloody possessed right now. Stay. Okay. Oh, mother of... My stream information is incorrect right now. I'm almost certain. I'm having such a marvelous day. What about you? Tell me about your day. How's it hanging? What's going on? While I come back here and fix my stream stuff. Why aren't you showing me? Oh, I can put this over here because you're not actually looking at it. Hi, Rick. What's going on? No, that's... Why is everything broken? I don't need to... Okay. Create a dashboard. But I've got no dashboard. Why have I got no dashboard? Oh, here's the button I'm looking for. Manage stream. Gosh, I'm doing a really good job. World building. Player's guide to Kinde. That's what we're up to today. The player's guide to Kinde. And I'm not gaming today. I'm world building. And what are my tags? My tags are always LGBTQIA+. And design. And cooperative. Did I say it in a very English accent? I think that's just something that happens nowadays. In my head, you know how, I mean, maybe not everybody is like this, but when you're about to say something, it runs through your head like, maybe a 1/10 of a second just before you say it. And a lot of times I will find the way that I pronounce things in my mind in that 1/10 of a second before it comes out my mouth is like full British, and it will cause me to like hitch, and I'll just be like, oh, what was that? Hang on, no. And there's if my eyes like go glossed over while I'm talking to you and I'm like midstream, there's a good chance that's what's going on in my head where I correct my pronunciation because I'm still not at that point where I feel comfortable. I mean, I've been here for 10 years and I'm still just not comfortable emulating the accent very much. Other than what changes happen that I can't really notice. But switching from saying bath to saying bath is really noticeable to me, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to doing that. Okay, I have to look at my notebook where I have a notebook where I do everything, and in that notebook is, let's see, there's my video editing workflow, and then I've got my YouTube upload setting process. I can do the accent. I can actually, if I'm actually doing the accent, I can do it well. Maybe not consistent to a region, not like 100%, but I can do the accent well. And then I've got like a list of stream tags for different types of streams. And because I can never remember these things consistently. So what are my tags for this stream? I did LGBTQIA+. Oh, original work. Yep. I did design. I did cooperative and campaign planning. Of course, the really obvious one. There we go. All right. And English. Excellent. There we go. Okay, everything is updated. My web port or my router port is still having issues, so I'm having to do all of my producing manually instead of with all of my macros and buttons and things on my little digital stream deck. Gosh, we're having a day. Who else is having a day? Somebody else tell me they're having a day. I was fine until half an hour ago. Ugh. What else have I forgotten? Have I forgotten anything? My mic is fine. My music is playing soft. Oh, Rick, you're having a day. What kind of day? Tell me all the horrible things about your day. Because I want you to sit in them, because obviously for my benefit. Let's see. Oh, I just need to, that doesn't go on any of the recordings. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't get all, oh no, the guy. Oh, wow. Okay. So are things happening then? Are things gonna happen? We're talking about a little bit of trauma that happened while Rick was walking the dog. I won't go into it because that's his thing, but the cops are going to have a chat with him. How very polite and kind of them. I suppose you don't actually have proof of what happened specifically, do you? Just the end bit. Well, anyway, oh, that's good. You have witnesses. I'm glad for that. I'm glad for that. Well, we'll see what happens. I wish you the best of luck. I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully, something decent will happen, because that guy's a menace. And if I'm certain it's happened to somebody else or will. So we'll get that dealt with. Right. That has actually made me feel better. So, thank you for your trauma. Oh, it's mostly I just need a distraction. Now I feel really bad. So, okay, I need to switch from this hot drink because I've just been like running around trying to fix everything. My router, for whatever reason, the configuration menu for my router, the pages that it has, it's got dozens of pages, especially if you're in expert mode. But the button to reset the router is not on the front page. It is buried 2 menus deep, 2 layers deep. And get this, a tab labeled configuration. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was in the configuration for the router the whole time. Yeah. But oh, Rick, you're absolutely right. Both my partner and I were digging through it. He had to go on his computer just so he could have a rustle around trying to find the button to reset the router, a really basic function. I think, to be honest, it didn't occur to us, but we should have just run on downstairs and pressed the button on the router, the actual physical button. Sorry, I'm going to drink something a bit cooler right now because I'm overheating. I've already rolled up my sleeves and my jumpers that I pull out specifically for streaming because they don't get worn otherwise in these times. Right. Okay, we're here to world build, aren't we? Not to talk about real world problems. Gosh. Yeah, so hi, I'm Morgan, aka Tempest, and this is my channel, Tempest Games, where I do live world building and board game and ttrpg content. How are you? We've talked about that. I'm looking at my list right now, which is down here. Well, the depth is not really, it's there. I've got a little list that I go through. What's new? What have we got going on? I haven't really changed anything with the stream specifically, but last weekend, I did, my first actual play, and it was marvelous, and Rick was there, and, we're not actually done with it. In fact, because my stuff broke, I couldn't show you the promo for it, so I'm gonna slap on the screen right now, if I can get it, this one. Ooh, that's big. There we go. There we go. That is my little promo for this weekend, Sunday. I just discovered it as actually Mother's Day because me. We had a blast. Hopefully everyone watching also had a blast. We're going to continue to have a blast in the finale on Sunday. And we're going to try, we still have a season and a half to do. And hopefully also have some time to just have some final thoughts at the end. And I don't have anything planned right now, but I really want to immediately start deciding what next game we're going to pick. And I would love to hear your recommendations. I don't know if I want to go straight into doing the Deep Forest, which is the sequel to The Quiet Year, just because I don't want to get caught up doing the same, like really samey games all the time. I want to mix it up. The trouble with that is most of the games I want to play are all world building games, which all seem to be kind of either The Quiet Year like based or inspired by say like Microscope or something like that. There's one game I haven't looked at yet, which is called I'm Sorry Did You Say Street Magic. That's the whole title. I've been told I would want to play that game, but it is also a world building game, so I'll have a look at that. But I love little indie games that could be completed in, say, about 6 hours or less. Yeah, and hopefully one that I haven't played before. I like doing games that are new to me because that is it is very much a theme of this channel that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just on here trying to have a good time and trying to learn new things and show you that you don't have to know what you're doing before you get started. And yeah, basically. What else? I've been experimenting with YouTube a little bit. I don't know if you've seen that. So let's hide this guy. I did a little video that I'm so proud of. Let's see, media and TQI promo. Find the file, because I haven't prepared this ahead of time, because that's what I'm like. And because I'm so hyper organized, everything is, oh, dang it, it's not actually there, is it? It's in here. Yes, it is. Where are you? There you are. Got it. Okay. Is it actually going to play? I'm not seeing anything. Hi, Tal. How are you? Oh, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for the follow. How are you? What's going on? You missed all the craziness earlier. I started half an hour late because everything was broken. Okay. Alright, great. Oh, there we go. This is the video that I did. And now you're listening to two musics at the same time. Hang on a second. There we go. That's better. Yes, it's super sexy. I'm absolutely in love with this video. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself. You guys have no idea. And I tried doing like a YouTube short, and I know I didn't do it right. I couldn't quite tell what I was doing, but it's gonna get there. Oh, let's turn this off. I think the music is too loud. Or I can turn it down. Let's turn it down. Oop, too loud, too quiet. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be playing around with YouTube. I'm thinking about... Well, the thing is I like YouTube for a way of like attracting people to what I'm doing. And also that they have some metrics that I think are going to be easier to read for whether or not I'm actually reaching people. And people are actually like watching the stuff that I do. Twitch has some interesting metrics, but they're not really great for telling you whether or not you're keeping people, and whether or not you're building sort of a community. And I think YouTube is a bit better with that. It's just not very good at streaming, and it's not very good at live chat from what I understand, but I'm looking into it. I'm thinking, see, YouTube is very good at much shorter things rather than longer things. And obviously these videos are fairly long, and when you put them on YouTube, they just tend not to get watched. I know when I see recordings of stuff like this, and it's the first time I've heard of it, I will often just watch like a minute or two of it, and I think, oh, I'll get back to that and watch the whole thing later, and then I don't. So what I'd like to do is break things up in some way so that the amount of time is not so intimidating. And that when people come across it the first time, they might actually watch it, some of it, if not maybe all of it, all the way through. All right, let's close this down, and we're gonna put music back on. There we go. So I'm thinking of just like because I tend to go through subjects like one at a time on these streams, I could potentially chop it down into just talking about that one subject and make that its own video on YouTube. I could also sort of slightly edit them a little bit so that maybe when I get really chatty with somebody live, that, you know, YouTube people don't have to watch that. I could also use the stream content as like B-roll for a proper fully edited, like not how to, I don't like the idea of producing a how to because I'm not an expert. That is the point. But sort of advice on world building, so that there's like a through line of me talking to a camera like this, maybe explaining bits about the real world and things that I forgot to talk about while I was live, and framing everything, and then inserting bits from the stream to make a more cohesive video. And maybe I could even just do that for much shorter content, you know, like 7-minute things, which is the type of video that YouTube really loves. And then that could potentially pull people into, say, coming to my live streams. and watching those, because this is the stuff that I really love. I love just sitting here and world building with you, and coming up with crazy shit on the fly. That's what I love. That's what I want to get doing. That's what I want to be doing. And all of this other stuff is about being able to do that and continuing to be able to do that. Because one of the things that I discovered about community building is your job is never done. You might have lots of people right now and everything is brilliant, but there is a decay rate to that sort of thing. It's just normal. Some people leave, some people lose interest, some people move on to other things. You need to be constantly building your community, just nonstop. So this is all stuff that I'm running around in here, and I'm thinking I might want to tackle that before I get into more types of content. So I think I want to get stronger rather than fatter, right? I think that's what I'm aiming for. So I'm going to continue trying to do a little bit of the APs and just stick to world building. I know I've sort of let some of my design stuff fall to the wayside, but I think this is maybe what's important right now. Right, let's get on to the actual show now that it is nearly an hour in. I move this away from my face a little bit. Right, so we're world building in a world that I've called Kinde, if you've never been here before. If you've never watched any of my stuff. Kinde is a restricted fantasy setting with a dash of post-apocalypse, and that reminds me of something else. I'm super excited about it, but I'm aware of the time right now, and I think I should talk about it in other venues. Indoor Recess is getting their own Discord. I'm so excited. Finally. Okay. In my world, there are strong themes of trauma. So occasionally we're going to talk about things that need a content warning or a trigger warning. And I will try and warn you of those things. I'll try to actually give you warnings when they come up. What else? We are writing a player's guide is what we're doing. I am such an Indoor Recess stan. I love those guys so much. It's unbelievable. And you know, you think of yourself as a really level-headed, not very stanish kind of person, but these guys, they make me do stupid things. I'm so happy. I'm so excited about them. I'm so happy they exist. Yeah, I want to be them when I grow up, even though I'm pretty sure they're all younger than me. Yeah. So, we're writing a player's guide. I have the structure is sort of built in. It comes from the campaign guide by DM of None. We're just giving this a try. We're filling in blanks and making this world ready for players, and technically ready for design. It'll probably see design before it sees players, because this world is going to be the inspiration for an entirely new RPG, I hope. Anyway, let's get going on to social structure and holidays. There we go. Doing all this manually. How exciting. Okay. Right. Social structure. And I need to pull this up so that the captions don't block. There we go. Yes, I need to do some different caption things for the actual plays. I think I'm going to start using Google Meet instead of Discord, because the captions that I'm using right now for closed captions are very good. It's the Google speech text engine. It's one of the better ones out there, but they're very limited applications for that you can actually, like tools that you can actually put into OBS and use it. So there's this where I can do just myself, but there isn't one where I can do everybody in an actual play. But I can display the browser source of a Google Meet meeting and get captions from that using the same engine. So I think I'm going to try doing that on Sunday. Because obviously accessibility is a priority. It's a huge priority. If you have any recommendations for me on accessibility, on making my stuff better, but within the realm of what it is I'm actually trying to do, I'd love to hear your input. Catch me on Twitter. This is very elegant, drinking straight out of a liter bottle. This is how I get on with things. Normally you don't see this, but today is an exception. Also, this is fizzy, so yeah, Prue uses a specific one. She's actually put out a guide for it. It does the sort of bare minimum of accessibility, but captioning is something that how would you phrase this? I'm not remembering what the preferred phrasing is, but sort of sight disabled people, I'm sorry, not sight disabled, hearing disabled folks. I'm on the wrong end of things. It's a big deal. And it is very easy for captions to be absolutely useless. So if I have access to something that is good, or at least decent, because there isn't anything that's really good in the realm of captions, of live captions, I'm going to go for it. So my preference is to use Google because Google is better. And I've just been kind of desperately trying to find access to doing a group Google speech to text engine thing, which, yes, you're absolutely right. I've watched the Chasing Tails stream, and sometimes it just doesn't recognize things. Sometimes it gives some of the weirdest like suggestions of what people have said. I would find that personally, and I have a lot of empathy for people who, okay, this might be a weird thing to say. My dad and my grandfather are severely hard of hearing. So I have a lot of exposure to the kind of experiences that they have in what they can actually do. The quality of closed captions or live open captions makes a huge difference. Huge. But to be honest, it's kind of looking for the best you can get is a poor excuse for not having them already. And the only thing I can say is that I've been extremely pressed for time. But I'm going to improve on that this week. So there we go. Right. Social structure. What on earth is social structure? I wanted to put this in there. This was my choice to put this in the Life in the World section. This wasn't actually, I don't think this was on the Demon of Non's campaign guide, but I wanted to put this on there because it is very different to what we're used to in the real world. It's very different to what we're used to in your typical fantasy. And this is definitely fantasy, but I need to emphasize and flag and signpost how my world is different. Because I think we're still too stuck in the quagmire of Tolkien fantasy. I say that like it's a bad thing. It's not inherently a bad thing. It can be a bad thing when you're trying to create new worlds where those rules don't apply and people can't let it go, which is the problem I run into. You know what? Let's do a quick, fun little Google search. Here we go. We're gonna ask Google, what is social structure? Let's see what we get. Yeah. Okay, we've got Britannica. Let's look at Wikipedia. So I think we're looking at something that's a bit more living. Social sciences. Social structure is the patterned social arrangements in society that are both emergent from and determinant of the actions of individuals. Likewise, society is believed to be grouped into structurally related groups, and this is maybe exactly where I'm emphasizing socially related groups or sets of roles. I think that's maybe where I want to concentrate with this. With different functions, meanings, or purposes. Examples of social structure include family, religion, law, economy, and class. It contrasts with social system, which refers to the parent structure in which these various structures are embedded. Thus, social structures significantly influence larger systems such as economic systems, legal systems. Yeah, okay. Framework upon which society is established. Well, that's a really abstract lay way of phrasing that. Determines the norms and patterns of relationships between the various institutions of society. Generally been used in social science, social stratification. On the macro scale, social structure pertains to the system of socioeconomic stratification. Most notably, the class structure. Social institutions are the patterned relations between large social groups. The mesoscale. Ooh, that's another scale. Hang on. Hold on here. Mesosociology is the study of intermediate social forces and stratifications. So you've got macro, which is we know is the big one, and we've got micro, which is the absolute detail. Apparently meso is in between, and it just seems to be a thing that really only happens in sociology. Interesting. Okay. On the mesoscale, it concerns the structure of social networks between individuals and organizations. Okay. On the microscale, social structure includes the ways in which norms shape the behavior of individuals within the social system. Okay. The scales are not always kept separate. Right. Okay. So I think what I want to get out of this is, so if we're looking at the real world, we're looking at, so you've got the individual, and then you've got the family, and then what is the next? We could possibly even go from, we could go from immediate family to extended family. We don't want to break this down too much. We don't want to get too granular. Then I want to say the next is like community, but is that not concrete enough? Because I also think we could break it up, and we could also have workplace, and say organization, corporation, and then we're getting into, say, like capitalism. Have I spelled that right? Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a bit generic. But say from community, then we get to local government, and then say maybe there's some kind of middle government, like in a lot of places there is some kind of like meso, since we just learned that. There's some sort of, you've got like a micro government, which is maybe your town or your county, or like in the States, yeah, no, you have town and county, and there's lots of breakdowns. And then you've got in the middle, you've got like state, and then at top in macro, you've got federal government. A lot of other countries in the world don't have quite so many breaks in the middle. Top level government, and then world. Am I missing anything else here? I think we do a lot of discussing. We have done a lot of discussing of this part of Kinde, and even a fair bit of discussing this part of Kinde. But this is the bit, this end of the social structure is, I think, where we need to fill in some blanks. So, let's do a subheading of family. Boop. And we're gonna put that up there for reference. And we're gonna do okay, this is another situation where I think we need to hit up our thesaurus. If not for that we're looking for new words so much as we're looking for nuance of meaning. And this I find this often helps me connect one idea to another. Association, center, company, district, nation, neighborhood, people, public, society, state, colony, commonality, commonwealth. Oh yeah, 100%. If you're not world building with the thesaurus, you're not world building. Hamlet, locality, turf. This is a bit more, this is a bit like territory. What is this? Affinity, identity, kinship, likeness, sameness, semblance. I think maybe I'm just gonna have to try to get concrete. Oh, thanks for coming, Tal. You have a good one. What did you say you were doing? I'd forgotten. Oh, you just said you were popping by. That's cool. Well, you have a great night. Oh, yes. Thank you. You as well. So I think we need to get concrete with Kinde specifically, with Mimini City and the 8 Lorddoms specifically. So what comes after family? Yeah, I think we need to say something about longhouse units, which again, not the right word. Units. I think after Longhouse, then we've got occupation, which is something that the inhabitants of Mimini City and the 8 lorddoms and the humans of Kinde in general are really familiar with associating with each other on, given that they lived in small caste wards for millennia. What else did we got? What other social identities? That's a good way of looking at it. What are the various social identities of the people of Mimini City and the 8 lorddoms? Occupation, Longhouse, I think. Actually, I'm gonna write that down. What are the working class doesn't exist. Classism doesn't exist. Well, no, it might to some degree, but it's not something I think anybody could put to words. Yeah. Criminals don't really exist. Is that weird? They must exist in some way, but in a socialist society where you can get whatever you want by asking for it, what kind of criminals are there? Guild and occupation are the same thing, aren't they? How are they different? What are the social identities an individual can hold? Well, that kind of organization definitely doesn't exist in this world right now. It's maybe a couple hundred years in the future. I think we talked about that when we were going over up here in apprenticeships. We did all of that working out of, where is it? Oh, maybe it's not on here. We did all that working out about what stages of the evolution of apprenticeships exist in the real world, and like where Mimini City and the 8 lorddoms would be on that evolutionary track. And it was definitely not at the level of having really advanced guild systems. Besides, I think that kind of organization on a philosophical level and on a social level, it exists to protect people from the pitfalls of capitalism, essentially. And this is a world in which capitalism doesn't exist. So that kind of, like, guilds are a kind of tribalism, aren't they? In a way? Because tribes exist for safety, for protection of individuals. The concept of tribes is one in which the assumption is, like, it's based on the idea that the fringes of a tribe are dangerous. That the no man's land between tribes is dangerous, and that tribes interacting is dangerous. And that's all very capitalist, but on a human socialist level, socialism kind of level, sociology level. Profession protectionism. Yeah. And I just don't, I can't find a reason why they would want to organize in that fashion. Then you also have like the thing that a guild would say is the reason they exist, and that's for reliability and quality. And the question I have there is well, that begs the question in general, do they have those concerns? Are they concerned about quality and reliability yet? Because one assumes that eventually that, you know, you get worried about that, that everyone does. But I think we have to, again, we're talking about, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. We're seeing everything through the screen of the hierarchy of needs, and these people are still at the bottom on survival. Slows. There it is. Yeah, of course there's 1,000,001 images about this. Oh, that's a really... This is a better one. Physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. It's basically survival. And after that, you've got stability. And then after that, you've got community. And then after that, you've got, what would you call this? Individuality. And then self-actualization, or like not evolution, not the epitome, words. Yeah, it's one level from just like appreciating yourself to then it's like it's the level where you're starting to appreciate what you could be and trying to reach that. And these folks are largely down here, or maybe they've only just sort of mastered this and they're starting to work on stability. And I think, well, suppose the idea of guilds would begin here, wouldn't they? Interesting things to think about, that I think need more time than a half-cocked, I suddenly realized I needed to think about this moment on a live stream. I mean, guilds are definitely solidly down here, but when we're talking about tribalism, we're talking here, this level. Okay, let's see. Social identities that an individual holds. Now, one thing that we haven't really talked about yet is the 8 faces. And the 8 faces is more or less the religion, if you could call it that, of Mimini City and the 8 lorddoms. It's more of a secular ritualistic practice than it is a religion, because again, there aren't any gods. We've established no gods. That is like rule number 1 of Kinde. No gods. We've chucked deities out the frickin' window. Where I suppose the irony is the fact that there are actually societies on Kinde that believe in a god. Don't worry, the poor clerics work just fine. They just don't have to name everything in order to make it work. Yeah, I think that's the key thing. And because everybody always asks me about that. Oh, what about the poor clerics? What about the paladins? Well, you know what? You don't have to name and anthropomorphize something in order for it to exist. Oh, wow. You don't have to name and anthropomorphize something in order for it to exist. Yep. Also, magic is magic. Yeah. It's not the magic that has flavor. It's the magic user that has flavor. So, a cleric is someone who focuses on magic, who focuses on, well, and the way that I've sort of conceptualized this, a cleric is someone, what you would consider a divine caster, so druids, paladins, rangers, clerics. They are, I changed the word around a bit, so it's more about devotion. So these are flavors of magic users who are devoted to something in particular. So a paladin is devoted to their vows, to their word. A cleric is devoted to people. A ranger is devoted to devoted to, let's say, liminality. A ranger is devoted to liminality, and a druid is devoted to nature. And it is their devotion which flavors how they use magic, and magic is completely neutral. How did we get onto this? Oh, because we were talking about how people might identify themselves in relation to our secular practices. And I just, I think in order for it to become an identity that you could stratify, people would have to have different relations to it. And unfortunately, I think unless you're a member of the clergy, unless you're a cleric, you don't really have a different take on it. Well, it's really just kind of one thing. It's a set of practices that people use that is not dissimilar to mindfulness, that they have actually like given some names, it's basically, it's a visualization practice. That's what the 8 faces are. It's just shared visualizations. Yeah, I don't think you could stratify I don't think you could stratify society based on their interaction with the 8 faces as a secular practice. However, I'm trying to think of what larger community identities there would be. I mean, especially something that we haven't talked about yet. Occupation. Because you've got something about the exchanges, and then you've got something about governance. But the thing is that governance is an occupation. The only thing that people owe to the larger organization of society is their labor and their knowledge. So, I mean, labor is already handled just in dealing with their occupation. That's actually something I think I should put in here. Labor is how people connect with larger society / government. Labor is labor. Labor is one of the two things, including, what did I just say? Including knowledge, which are owed to society based on the first flight's contract. One thing is interesting. Ooh, I know I can do for another heading here. Ha, okay. Outside the social structure. So we're talking about members of splinter groups. And we're talking about individual outsiders. How does Mimini City and the 8 lorddoms deal with these people? That's important. No. So family. Let's talk about this a little bit. Family is, there's no immediate family unit. Everyone is related, considered a relation of everyone else within a longhouse. However, yes, very community, very communal. I'm thinking, I've read about, there are a lot of Amazonian tribes who practice essentially, you have the family unit, which is often matrilineal, matriarchal, and this is where the family unit is where all the adults live, and it is not small. It is very much an extended family type situation. And then you have the like the mothers and children unit, which is whenever I'm sorry, I'm going very much off of memory here, and I think this would take us down too much of a rabbit hole trying to Google it. But once children reach like the age of like speech, basically like 2-3 years old, they move into basically like a longhouse base, essentially, where they grow up and they learn things, and there's a lot of mothers and like grandmothers and people who teach and nurse and feed and cook for, but the children basically live together in one unit. And when people pair up, that basically, that's how they sort of graduate from living with the children, and then end up moving into, males would move into the homes of the female partner, and then they'd live in that family unit with all the other adults of that family unit. So the concept of parents is very loose. Like you know your family line, you know what it is, you know it exists, but they don't hang on to those concepts in the way that we do in white Western society. How would I say this? But I think here it's even less structured than that. I think everyone just kind of runs amok, really. And part of organizing, so obviously someone needs to take care of the children. That is a large part of social structure. Who's going to take care of the kids? And I would say that it's a very good question. I've not thought too heavily about this. Of course, that's been the theme of this stream, this is all stuff I haven't really thought much about yet. And we're 100% not going to get to holidays today. This is all going to be about this because things broke. Let's see. Longhouse units. How's that different to family? Okay, I think we're gonna move this here. We're gonna say there's no immediate family unit. One generally knows who their parents and grandparents are, but parent has less meaning than it would to us. It doesn't include what do you call that? Does include a delineation of rights or power or rules or authority. That's I think the big one. Or any it's just about who you come from. Then within longhouses, yeah, okay. Children spend most of their time in the longhouse their family is part of. Yep. And it is the elderly and the mildly infirm. There's those who can't work, who take care and raise the children. Yeah. I think because if you're of an age where you can work, where you can what's the verb for labor that isn't labor? Labor is a noun. Can perform labor, produce labor. But essentially, if before you're of an age where you can work or learn or become an apprentice, ooh, that's an important point as well. How do people move on from being children to being apprentices to their occupation? Because apprenticeship is how you move into your occupation, but how does that look socially? Children, once children are old enough to learn an occupation, they move, become they take the aptitudes. That's how they get into their occupation, is by aptitudes. There's something I didn't think about regarding to apprenticeships. Apprenticeships, basically, they have to have a location. Do children move out of their longhouses and into some kind of an apprenticeship space in order to learn their occupation? Because, I mean, that is what we think of when we think of medieval apprenticeships. At the age of 11, your mom and dad pack you off with a bit of money and a change of clothes, and you go and you live with the master. And, you know, depending on what kind of work the master did, they could have, you know, like whole barracks of people in various stages of learning, living with them, essentially. Ooh. Because here's the thing, in the caste wards, everyone lived and learned and worked in the same place. So maybe it is more like each longhouse has a profession. And maybe there's like multiple longhouses with the same profession, the same occupation. And you stay and you learn that occupation in that longhouse if you were born to it and then stayed within the occupation. But if you decided to change to a different occupation than what you were raised in, what you were born to, then you would move to that longhouse. Because why would they have separated occupation out from, why would they have stratified, like given, why would they have given occupation its own separate identity if they'd never had it before? Why would they? Why would they give society give occupation boundaries outside the longhouse if they'd never had them before? What would be, say, like the pros and cons to that? What would be the problems that people face that would inspire them to do something like that? So you have the issue, the problem of they might tie their occupation to how would you call it? I want to say, I mean, it's akin to slavery, but there's a more nuanced way of saying this. To labor without consent. Yeah, okay. They might there might be not enough experts in the first flight to cover every longhouse. As in a one per longhouse situation. So then like, what are the other longhouses then? There might have been a problem with too much disparity between the quality / knowledge of experts between longhouses. What are the, okay. Let's do problems related to occupation to, let's call it place of occupation. Benefits of let's call this inherited. Benefits of inherited place of occupation. There's almost always a better way of saying things than the first thing I come up with, because the first thing I've come up with is always really wordy, especially if I'm a bit fuzzy in the head. I go very purple. Benefits of inherited place of occupation. So we're talking about what are the inherent benefits of the caste ward system in relation to occupation that people may have wanted to carry through with. Social trust. You don't have to learn to trust someone new. Trust is something you already have before you get involved with your occupation. There's another way of saying this that I'm not coming up with. Yeah, we'll call it embedded trust. What's another reason that people would have clung to the caste word concept of occupation? Less organizational labor required due to informal structures. If you separate occupation out from the longhouse structure, from the caste ward system, you then have to formalize the organizational structure. You have to put thought into that. From what I'm seeing here so far, we've got a lot of pretty good reasons for people to want to separate themselves from the caste ward structure of occupation. In fact, there's probably a lot of people who are already thinking that they have essentially gone from giving away their labor without consent to the elves to giving their labor away without consent to other humans. And that strikes me as a potential thread of tension within society in general, and with the splinter groups as well. So, I mean, we could use a splinter group or a, what would you call it? A movement to indicate the sort of the seeds of capitalism in this society. Yeah, that there's a growing interest in individualism that will naturally lead to capitalism. I think I need to put this in here. What do we call that? It's not inequality. Inequality is a very loaded term. The whole point of all of this is that everyone has the same things. And unfortunately, it's much too like them having everything they needed in earlier societies. During the occupation, it's not about disparity. It's about feeling like they haven't properly consented to they haven't consented to the social structure. They haven't consented to the authority that the lorddoms have over them. And that and the idea, and that quickly leads to the idea that authority in general is a problem. And I think that's where, I think that's the thinking that very much led to some of the bandit groups in general. And I'm certain that those guys are going to be very quickly in on the concept of capitalism. So what did I just say? I was looking for a title and I said something that might have led to the title. What was it? Not about disparity. It's about consenting to authority. But that doesn't get you to... Let's just label it individualism. Not consent. Some people are beginning to conceptualize the idea that they haven't explicitly given their consent to the authority of to have authority over their authority over themselves. I'll get it eventually. The word's going to keep changing, and it's going to keep changing until I find something that suddenly clicks, and then that'll be it. But for now, also taking breaks in between these sort of like conceptualization moments and putting things in actual words is really great for finding the right words for something as well. Haven't given their consent from Mimney City and the 8 lorddoms to have authority over themselves. They haven't given explicit consent for anyone to have a right to their labor. Beginnings of individualism. These are ideas behind banditry. Ooh, and that's actually making me think of Hartford, which is the bandit settlement, or rather the settlement that the bandits took over. And the bandit lord there quite likely is trying to make his brand of individualism a social structure. And that's his reasoning behind taking over Hartford, because he believes that all of this communal stuff is nonsense that's just going to get them taken over by the elves again, and they need to think more individually in order to protect themselves from the elves, you know. And yeah, something along those lines, I think. There is likely a movement / whispered talk about relating to individualism. Oh yeah, that's hugely what's going on in this whole area, and that's why there's been so much. They have been unsettled for, what was it, like 25, 30 years after the Exodus, is because they, you know, were just afraid. A whole generation was just so terrified that the elves were going to show up again any minute, that they couldn't figure their shit out. This is likely what will lead to capitalism. It is the core of my setting. It's the definition of trauma. Not the act of trauma. It's the definition of what it's like to be a survivor of trauma. So yeah, 100% the core of my setting will lead to capitalism in some form. Okay, I'll leave this. Seem to be a bit incoherent today compared to other days. That's okay. I'm just thinking that because these are actually pretty good reasons to not want to stay in this like inherited concept of occupation, that it's very likely that some settlements, that the different settlements, the 8 lorddoms, are going to have different ways of doing this, and I think they're largely not going to agree. So the 8 lorddoms don't yet agree on occupation and place. I think because it is something that they will have talked about in Lord's Moots, that it is that they're going about it intentionally. So I'm suddenly liking how this is the first time the concept of consent has shown up. I'm liking that this has the potential of becoming a major concept in this setting, because I think consent is tied really closely to trauma. Well, I don't think it, I mean, it just is. I might be putting it to words that's closer to the center of things, but this is I mean, I've always known this stuff was at the center of it, so but I'm putting concrete ideas to it. We'll put it that way. I mean, abstractly speaking, yes, I've always known this. But it's nice to have concrete elements of the setting that are examples of this stuff that's at the center of things. Some good analogs. That's what we always need in this whole thing, I think. I mean, this whole project is largely about trying to find analogs for the different concepts relating to trauma. Okay. I'm just like basically vomiting thoughts onto this page right now. And I'm also noticing it's just about 10 o'clock. I think I'm gonna leave this here. I don't know if we'll continue with this next weekend or if I might just leave it, because it might be at the point where I need to put it into like, I need to flesh it into real words, in which case I won't do it next week and we'll move on to holidays. But this is good stuff. This is some real, like, big thinking right here. I don't think I've mentioned it. No, I think I'm gonna switch over to over here. Yeah. I'm gonna be on a panel in a few weeks, answering questions about playing TTRPGs and being a TTRPG streamer. And when I have a bit more detail about that, I will be letting everyone know and I'll be tweeting about it. But I've been thinking about how I describe what I'm doing here on this channel. And the phrase that comes to mind is reinventing the wheel. I have a lot of strong feels and a lot of opinions about how we've been too easily falling back onto faulty, out-of-date ideas of what fantasy is, and ideas that I think there are a lot of hidden assumptions that fantasy can't change or without no longer being fantasy. And this is part of the reason I'm actually really excited for Indoor Recess's upcoming campaign, Generation Fantasy, because in the world building that they did last night, it's very non-traditional fantasy, and it's going to be D&D 5e as well, which I'm looking forward to seeing how they work with that. I think personally, I think that fantasy needs to change. It needs to. We can still have Tolkien, and we can still have this, Forgotten Realms and those sorts of worlds that we know, but they need to no longer be the default. And as with just about anything, especially things that have strong ties into our society and how we live our lives, you can't, the things that we change them into will be better if we drop all of our assumptions and we start from scratch. And so, yes, I am reinventing something that already exists and works fine already. But I think I don't see myself being like a, I can't even say the phrase, thought leader. I don't see myself being that in any case. I do this stuff because I enjoy it, because I enjoy reinventing the wheel. I enjoy challenging this kind of stuff. Oh no, don't you dare bring me that word. You throw that word in the bin. No. Generation Fantasy's World Building broadcast is on the Roll20 Twitch channel. It's not an Indoor Recesses. It's probably at this time of day not their most recent broadcast either. You can also look on Indoor Recesses Twitch, and there's links to like Roll20 or Indoor Recesses Twitter, and there's links to Roll20's Twitch and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing this for anybody in particular. I'm not trying to be a thought leader. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just trying to change my world. Quite literally. I'm making one. Anyway, I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all the extra follows that I got today. Thank you. Oh, I didn't thank the Cornish Writer for following. I think they did between sessions, or they did during the games at the weekend. I don't remember, and I don't know if I thanked them, but thank you. Perfect. Great. Thank you for that, Rick. Yeah, have a great night. Take care of yourself. Bye.